So this week's book bite is the home edition. I hope you are enjoying your surprise snow day today. And I am enjoying mine as well, but I was not prepared for it to be a snow day today. So I do not have a book at home with me that I can read for our first chapter Friday book bite video this week. So instead, we're going to do something a little different. We are we're going to use Sora and finds an ebook that we can read from home. You can read them on the Chromebook. You can put the app on your phone or a tablet and read them that way as well. So we are going to go to Sora, which is on your ClassLink page. And if you need more information on how to use Sora or how to access any of the ebooks, if you go to the Library Schoology course, there is lots of information there in the ebook folder on how to access Sora. You can add the Pamunkey Library collection to your Sora account so that you have access to those ebooks and audiobooks as well without a library card. So we're going to go to Sora and we are going to read an ebook today. Okay, so I clicked on the Sora app on my ClassLink page, and I am on my shelf. So these are the books that I have checked out, and today we are going to read the first chapter of Among the Hidden. And if I have brought the bookmobile to your classroom, you have probably heard me talk about this book. This is a great series, and this was written by Margaret Peterson Haddix. And in this story, this is the story of Luke, and they live in a world where the government has made it a law because the population has become out of control. It's now a law that you're only allowed to have two children. But Luke is the third child in his family. So he has spent his whole life hiding. But things are about to change for Luke and his family. So I am going to skip to chapter 1. He saw the first tree shudder and fall far off in the distance. Then he heard his mother call out the kitchen window, "Luke, inside, now." He had never disobeyed the order to hide. Even as a toddler, barely able to walk in the backyard's tall grass, he had somehow understood the fear in his mother's voice. But on this day, the day they began taking the woods away, he hesitated. He took one extra breath of fresh air, scented with clover and honeysuckle, and coming from far away, pine smoke. He laid his hoe down gently and savored one last moment of feeling warm soil beneath his bare feet. He reminded himself, "I will never be allowed outside again, maybe never again as long as I live." He turned and walked into the house as silently as a shadow. "Why?" he asked at the supper table that night. It wasn't a common question in the Garner house. There were plenty of hows. How much rain did the back field get? How's the planting going? Even what's? What did Matthew do with the 5/16 wrench? What's Dad going to do about that busted tire? But why wasn't considered much worth asking. Luke asked again, "Why did you have to sell the woods?" Luke's dad harumphed and paused in the midst of shoveling forkfuls of boiled potatoes into his mouth. "I told you before, we didn't have a choice. Government wanted it. You can't tell the government no." Mother came over and gave Luke's shoulder a reassuring squeeze before turning back to the stove. They had defied the government once, with Luke. That had taken all the defiance they had in them, maybe more. "We wouldn't have sold the woods if we hadn't had to," she said, ladling out thick tomatoey soup. "The government didn't ask us if we wanted houses there." She pursed her lips as she slid the bowl of soup onto the table. "But the government's not going to live in the houses," Luke protested. At 12, he knew better, but sometimes he still pictured the government as a very big, mean, fat person, 2 or 3 times as tall as an ordinary man, who went around yelling at people, "Not allowed," and "Stop that." It was because of the way his parents and older brothers talked. "Government won't let us plant corn there again. Government's keeping the prices down. Government's not going to like this crop." "Probably some of the people who live in those houses will be government workers," Mother said. "It'll all be city people." If he'd been allowed, Luke would have gone over to the kitchen window and peered out at the woods, trying for the umpteenth time to picture rows and rows of houses where the firs and maples and oaks now stood, or had stood. Luke knew from a sneaked peek right before supper that half the trees were now toppled. Some already lay on the ground, some hung at weird angles from their former lofty positions in the sky. Their absence made everything look different, like a fresh haircut exposing a band of untanned skin on a forehead. Even from deep inside the kitchen, Luke could tell the trees were missing because everything was brighter, more open, scarier. And then when the people move in, I have to stay away from the windows? Luke asked, though he knew the answer. The question made Dad explode. He slammed his hand down on the table. Then, you gotta stay away now. Everybody and his brother's going to be tramping around back there to see what's going on. They see you. He waved his fork violently. Luke wasn't sure what that gesture meant, but he knew it wasn't good. No one had ever told him exactly what would happen if anyone saw him. Death? Death was what happened to the runt pigs who got stepped on by their stronger brothers and sisters. Death was a fly that stopped buzzing when the swatter hit it. He had a hard time thinking about himself in connection with the smashed fly or the dead pig gone stiff in the sun. It made his stomach feel funny, even trying. I don't think it's fair we've got to do Luke's chores now, Luke's older brother Mark grumbled. Can't he go outside some? Maybe at night? Luke waited hopefully for the answer, but Dad just said no without looking up. It's not fair, Mark said again. Mark was the second son, the lucky second. Luke thought when he was feeling sorry for himself. Mark was 2 years older than Luke and barely a year younger than Matthew, the oldest. Matthew and Mark were easily recognizable as brothers, with their dark hair and chiseled faces. Luke was fairer, smaller boned, softer looking. He often wondered if he'd ever looked tougher like them. Somehow he didn't think so. Luke don't do nothing nohow, Matthew jeered. We won't miss his work at all. It's not my fault, Luke protested. I'd help more if. Mother laid her hands on his shoulder again. Hush, all of you, she said. Luke will do what he can. He always has. The sound of tires on the gravel driveway came through the open window. Now who? Dad started. Luke knew the rest of that sentence. Who could that be? Why were they bothering him now, his first chance all day to sit down? It was a question Luke always heard the end of from the other side of a door. Today, skittish because of the woods coming down, he scrambled up faster than usual, dashing for the door to the back stairs. He knew without watching that Mother would take his plate from the table and hide it in a cupboard, would slide his chair back into a corner so it looked like an unneeded spare. In 3 seconds, she would hide all evidence that Luke existed, just in time to step to the door and offer a weary smile to the fertilizer salesman or the government inspector or whomever else had come to interrupt their supper. So you can read more about Luke and find out a little bit more about that law, about only having two children, and how Luke has kind of spent his childhood, and how things begin to change for him as houses do go in that part that used to be the woods that they owned. So the book Among the Hidden by Margaret Peterson Haddix is available to check out from the library. You can fill out the book dash form, and I'll deliver that to your A1 or your B1 class. And it is also available on Sora as an ebook, and you can check that out. You do not have to fill out the book dash form for the ebooks. You can check those out yourself through Sora, and there's more information on using Sora on the library Schoology course, or you can send me a message in Schoology, and I would be happy to help you.